Good afternoon, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California. This is Success Sadhana. My name is JM, and I welcome you all to our program today, where we will discuss how to thrive by embracing reality. Need we fear reality? With our speaker today, Vaish, a veteran Bhakti yogi, author, and form monk. We are on 10 members on Zoom and around 10 members on Facebook. Good afternoon, Vaish. Welcome back to another episode of Success Sadhana.
Well, thank you so much, Jai Madhava. It's great to be here and good to see you. And good to see we have Victoria, Radhakripa, Makarvin, Marilia, Alicius. Sorry. Charles is here. That's a big deal. Farida, Denise, Raj, Janet, Pradeep, Gayatri, and coming in fast. So, yeah, welcome everybody. It's really great to be back here. And the topic today is grounding, because there are very practical points that are made in Bhagavad Gita, among other wisdom literatures, that are meant to give us a foundation. Foundations are important. Take a house, for instance. There's a lot resting on a foundation when you put up a house, including your own peace of mind in the house, that it'll hold. But to speak of all the other components, we don't see it, but it's there. And what the Bhagavad Gita recommends is to take some time to observe what's real and what's not. And there is a clear definition of what's real and what's not, which I'll go into. There is a way also that we can experience it because we're part of it, and we can very directly experience who we are. Can also learn to distinguish between higher and lower energies. That's my preface. And before I go much further or any further, I'll just invite anyone who would like to introduce somebody who might be here for the first time today.
Or if you came here for the first time and would like to say hi, please feel free to unmute and share your thoughts, or you can type in the chat bar as well. Go ahead, Marilia.
I'm not a first timer, but I wanted to say that I took a look at your book that's for sale, The 4 Questions, and I just purchased it on Amazon, and it looks absolutely amazing. I can't wait to get it.
Thanks, Marilia. You made my
Thank
day.
you.
We're just getting started.
All right.
Yeah, it's writing a book is a very heartfelt experience. First and foremost, I do it for my own edification. And I also have a fascination with books in the sense that it's amazing how we can connect to those around us who write in a deeper way than we can even personally sometimes. It's the magic of a book. Let's speak of it's like a container that takes idea seeds out into the world. I got a lot of things to say about books, but I really appreciate it, Marilia. Thank you. Go ahead, JM.
Yeah, Manu, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it was a pleasant surprise to see Gayatri. She had been joining previously, but after quite a while, Gayatri has joined us from Salesforce. So
thanks, Manu. Glad to be back. I was traveling and just busy with work, but good to be back here.
Thanks, Gayatri. Great to have you back.
Go ahead, Alikas.
Oh, I'm new. I haven't done this before, so I'm just here to experience.
Thank you very much. Can you help us with your name so we can get it?
Oh, Elaine Castle, like a building.
Oh, Elaine Castle. Okay. Fantastic. Nice to have you here. Thank you very much for coming.
I want to say I used to attend regularly and I always got so much out of it. And then life just happened and I didn't prioritize attending these. And I've attended the last 2 weeks and I can't believe how much better I have felt just in 2 weeks of coming back. So just want to thank you for your wisdom and your words. I almost always share that weekend with people things that I learned from it and different perspectives you give me. So I really appreciate the time and wisdom you share with us.
Thank you so much. That's very heartfelt for me, and I feel the same. As they say in Japan, kochiro koso. Same back to you. Thank you for
One of
being
the
here.
most beautiful things you ever shared to me, and I wrote it and it comes up first thing on my computer every morning, is reality is beautiful. It's so simple,
Mm.
but it just changed my perspective on life. And sorry, I'm sharing more than I meant to, but just that reality is beautiful. You said it so simply, and it's just that's all it is. It's our reality and it's beautiful, and we're lucky to be here. So thank you for sharing that wisdom as well.
Thanks, Denise. You're back on the right day because that slides in this deck. And it is one of my favorite sayings. It's pregnant with so much meaning, and there's practical application, according to the wisdom literatures, based on that statement that can bring us to foundational points in our life, or to build a foundation for our lives, I should say. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And by the way, everyone's free to share as much as they like. It's a free Zoom room.
Hi, I'm Farida. I had attended this session, one of its kind before, but I'm really looking forward to learn especially the grounding part of it, and especially the times we are going in. So I really look forward to all your wisdom and soak in. Thank you for this class.
Thanks, Farida. I resonate with what you said. I'm every day I look for foundation because the world's shifting so much. And yesterday, when I was driving to an appointment, I called a friend of mine who was right in the middle of a reading session. So I said, I'll just be quiet and listen. And as he was reading, we were in a section of one of the wisdom literatures called Srimad Bhagavatam that was describing how when we have to rebuild that sense of foundation every day.
Yeah, the refresher is needed all the more, right? Especially
Yeah,
with so much dynamic
yeah,
nature.
yeah, that's so true. It's depending on our focus, we can be carried away by the changing world, or one of the suggestions given in the wisdom literatures is to learn how to see what's real, which starts with who we are, the seer. Marilia.
I have a quick question. All of
Sure.
these thank yous for your wisdom, and I'm definitely right up there with them. I don't know what my life would be without your connecting with you on these Fridays. And that being said, I'm sure you know it's been announced publicly that Intel is going through a major layoff. And I was just wondering, should I be one of those numbers? How would I be able to continue connecting?
Aha. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, you're the person to talk to is JM. He
Okay.
has his fingers on all the buttons and has is behind the scenes, is organizing the all the technology and so forth. And he just put up a text in the text box. So feel free to get in touch with him. And we love to have you wherever we go. And we go a lot of places. So please stay in touch. It's become a tight-knit group because we've been through it together in so many circumstances, starting with, I mean, before the pandemic, but then pandemic, we stepped it up too. So it's, yeah, we feel the same. We want to stay in touch with you, Marilia.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Well, that was great.
I did see Farida, I think. I don't know if she already spoke, but
She did.
She did. Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah, she spoke.
Yeah, thanks.
And
Rich, this is Raj. I also
hey,
want
Raj.
yeah, so 200 of your sessions. I have been to most of the sessions, and also I have been with at your session at your Intel presentation. I never miss your sessions on Fridays. I look forward to the Friday noon meeting, and when your session ends, the U.S. stock market also closes. but I pay attention some of the time. But in those 1 hour, the initial 5 minutes where you make us to observe that we observe has always been the highlight. That is what I always wait for the week. Medilia was telling Intel is going through these things and those things. I have opted to choose voluntary separation from Intel. So my last day will be September 30. I had the question of asking you or James about how to be in touch, but Marilia touched upon that. Yeah, so your presentations, spiritual thoughts, and just your appearance itself carries so much peace. Looking at you and JM, so this is great. I wouldn't miss it, and whenever the sessions are there, I feel some emptiness. But someday, yeah, I will make it to your Palo Alto sessions one of these evenings. But yeah, it has been wonderful. Thank you for sharing your spiritual wisdom with those uninitiated. Thanks, Vaishon Jam. I just wanted to share.
Thanks, Raj. Makes all the difference in the world, actually. And I hope this isn't a conspiracy to try to pump me up here. Actually, I don't mind if it is. Thank you. Marilia?
One more thing. I'm sorry to keep butting in,
Not at
but
all.
I really enjoyed that in-person session that we had a while back when I was still in California. And if I just shared my personal email directly with JM, and if I find out ahead of time when the next one will be, I'll see if I could get a plane ticket and fly out there to attend.
Okay. Okay, Marilia, fantastic. Well, JM helps to organize all these things, so you put your email in the right place. And anybody else who's in transit one way or another, please stay in touch with him so he'll be able to keep us all together. It'd be really nice for us to stick together.
Yeah, thanks. And I'm receiving quite a few emails or private messages with email addresses. I'll also maybe add a WhatsApp channel, which will be private. So your information is not shared with others, but you can stay in touch too. So like I'll have both option of either connecting through emails or through WhatsApp, private WhatsApp channels.
Yeah, and there are events. We do have retreats and small and longer, short and longer. And so, yeah, we'll just make that available to you. So let's take care of Raj here for a minute and do a little bit of introspection. So I'm going to put on a tampura, which is a drone instrument. It's meant to just give a sense of calm and focus. And I'm going to switch over to original sound. And today, before you close your eyes, I just want to suggest trying a mudra. On your left hand, if you would put your thumb and your index finger together in a circle, and on your right hand, put your thumb and your middle finger together. And you can hold them like this when we go into our meditation. And If you'll sit up just slightly straighter than you were a second ago, it helps bring your mind to attention and helps the prana flow through your body. And try closing your eyes and bringing your attention to your breath. And relax, but keep an alert mind. One of the famous bodies of literature which describes how to find happiness in life is called Nigama. Ni means within and Gama means to go. Just as oceanographers claim that they have only cataloged 7% of what's in the ocean, who knows what the other 93% is like. The ancient wisdom literatures say that we've barely seen anything until we look inside, and even then it becomes like an ocean. There are many jewels to discover. No shopping necessary, no subscription to anything necessary, it's all right there. But I tend to miss it because I'm externally focused and my mind is geared towards the next thing. As it turns out, we don't need a next thing, we're already something. We don't need to become something, we already are something. And if we observe that something, we'll feel satisfied. This is a claim. So let's try for a moment. First, calm the mind. The mind can be like an enemy or a friend. To start focusing, notice your inhalation and your exhalation. Take your time to breathe. And as you're breathing, come into the present moment, which means notice that you're conscious. That consciousness is light. It's illuminating. You are illuminating. In fact, you're illuminating your whole body. If you take the vantage point of the seer within the body and become aware of the fact that there are hundreds of miles of veins within your body which are, at this very second, moving gallons of liquid, just like a river might flow. And as you're witnessing your body, notice that it's flowing, just as if you're sitting next to a river that's flowing. Take the vantage point of a seer of your body, and you're sitting on the bank of a river, and your body is that river that's flowing with hundreds of miles of river through the Venus system. And just be observant that you're aloof. And the definition of the word is, which can be conjugated as are or was, is that which remains. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's definition of reality is that which remains. The body doesn't remain, it comes into being and it then grows or changes and it comes to a pinnacle, and then it begins making its descent inevitably. And even as the body changes, we're the same. We're the same observer. We're still by the riverside watching it go through its transformations. And even when this body becomes unusable, it has a shelf life. And when that shelf life expires or is due, there's another transformation. But we're the same. We're never affected by the external changes of the material world. They're going on controlled by higher powers. And our bodies and our minds, which is psychological energy, are also part of that material world. But we, as the seer of the body and the mind and the external world, are always aloof. We never touch the material energy until we extend ourselves into it by our desire to own or control it, consider something mine, and we become captured by the illusory movements of that energy and think, oh, this is my life. But there's a difference between our life, which is us, the seer, and our life situation, which is like watching a movie or watching a dream. And by spiritual practice, one can awaken from the dream, and reality becomes apparent. We've always been here, we always will be here, and we have an original, personal, conscious, divine source, which is all attractive. Therefore we say reality is beautiful. So take another few seconds to appreciate your aloofness as you sit by the side of the flowing river, which is your body. Notice that your breath has been going on automatically, even though you forgot about it. And you have the choice to bring your attention inwardly at any time and let go of your mudras. Wiggle your fingers and toes and notice that the body has some sort of AI, and it interprets whatever your thoughts are and acts according to whatever you desire. Nice little biological robot. Open your eyes and come back into the Zoom room. Thank you, everyone, for taking that journey, and welcome back. So now I'll discuss a few of the points that I'm representing from the ancient wisdom literatures, which are considered axiomatic. They give us not only the definition of reality, they describe the various qualities of energy in the world. They also give us practical steps that we can take, like the one we just did, the one we just took, to experience it for ourselves. It means reality. So going into the slide deck, the first slide is a paraphrase of something that's in the Bhagavad Gita. And here's the paraphrase. Some things have a beginning and an end, others don't. You don't have a beginning or end. Your body does. And so this is one of the foundational definitions of what's important and what's less important. That which exists means it doesn't change. It's always in the present moment. It can't be diminished ever. You may notice that no matter how much resource we have, how many resources we have, for instance, any house or dwelling you live in is going to degrade over time. You may notice that you have to keep up on it. You may be very wealthy and live in a big house, but still you got to hire people to come over and take care of it because it just naturally falls apart. And even if you're a renter, you got to call people, something broke, something wore out. The nice paint that you were admiring on the walls, it faded. It's constant. And that's the whole universe is like that. It's constantly changing. Our bodies are like that too. That's why it takes so much work to keep them up. Our bodies, our houses, the entire the environment that we live in externally is constantly changing. Jam, you're smiling, so I know there's some kind of message that came in. Go ahead.
Yeah, Charles just put in the two best days in a boat owner's life are the day they buy a boat and the day they sell it.
Yeah. God, and sometimes I've been to exhibits where somebody was so wealthy that they could afford these mansions. Like when I was a kid, my mom took me and my brother and I to the Winchester Mystery House. I think it's still there in San Jose. Maybe it's not. But in any case, that woman just kept building and building and building. She made money from the Winchester rifle. And in England recently, I visited a palace-like dwelling that somebody lived in. And after 100 years, it requires the money of a government to keep it together. It's become of national interest, and therefore it's maintained. But to speak of boats, anything degrades over time, but we don't. So that's one of the main points of the Bhagavad Gita. And in the next slide, we describe how the material universe is called illusory. It's not false. There's a difference between false and illusory in the ancient wisdom literatures. Everything has a basis in reality because it all comes from one source. That's indicated by a Sanskrit verse that which is very helpful. That says Janmadya Sayataha, which means that everything comes from one original source. So the material world is different from us, and here's how. The material universe is described in Bhagavad Gita to be made of gross and subtle material elements and is called inferior energy. But there's another energy in this universe, which is consciousness. And consciousness is called superior energy. We, as conscious beings, and just notice that you're conscious, you're looking here, you're noticing things, you have will, you can decide to do anything, go anywhere at any time with certain limitations, whereas a rock can't. And the whole material world is called jada, it's rock-like. Even the subtle energies of mind and intelligence, these are called the psychological energies of the universe, but they're still material and they come and go. The energy that is inexhaustible, that never diminishes and it's permanent, is us. This is what the ancient wisdom literatures called the Upanishads point to. They say, you're trying so hard to get situated in this world because that's what a lot of the Vedas are about. They say, okay, live a healthy life. Here are the ways to be in harmony with nature. But there is a way in which trying to find the best situation in the material world can become frustrating because eventually we slip from that position. You got to start all over again and try again. What's up gradually is down, and what's down is up. There's topsy-turviness to the whole material world. So when we look out at the world, which is beautiful, the other day I was sitting out looking at the ocean, and just the hills here in California and the way the sun was reflecting off the water and the clouds mixed with fog and so forth was so overwhelmingly beautiful. I was fixated on it for some time. So in the Bhagavad Gita, and this is in the next slide, here's a secret that is so helpful in connecting to reality, that, and it's a secret because it's not well known. Sometimes we become enamored of the material world, and then we notice how ephemeral it is, and we become less enchanted with it because it's here today, gone tomorrow. So there are philosophies which say, we'll just give up the material world altogether because it's so disappointing and frustrating. So find void, find something, find non-existence, because existence here in this world seems to be so troubling. But there's a secret, and that's given in the Bhagavad Gita. And that's in this slide. The material world reflects reality. Or I should say, the material world is a reflection of reality. The sun, when reflected on rippling water, appears to ripple. So there's a way in which, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes how whatever we see here in the material world is a reflection of reality. Reality is beautiful, so the reflection also is beautiful. But the problem with a reflection is you really can't get any traction with it. If you, for instance, went to a reflecting pool, which I've done in North Carolina, there's this park. It's a private place. It's owned by a family who are obviously very wealthy. They own this huge swath of land, and they've turned it into a sort of hiking paradise. And on that land, there's a perfect reflecting pool. I had not seen a perfect reflecting pool. It's a natural pond, and along the banks are trees. One of them's a robust and very full willow tree. And it's right on the bank of the reflecting pool, thus lending well to the analogy given in the Bhagavad Gita. When you see that tree on the water at a certain time of day when the light is perfect, it looks exactly like the tree itself. But if you were going to try to embrace that tree, you'd simply fall into the water. If there were fruits on a tree that's reflected and you try to pick the fruits, you also would come out empty-handed. There is a way in which, if we examine literature and songs and all types of expression, we often find that artists are in some way noticing this phenomena that the material world's here today, gone tomorrow. And we try to embrace it, but we lose it. I could start singing you songs from various genres, albeit slightly out of tune, but they all, if you think to any literature, describe how I had it, I lost it, I had it, I lost it. There are, you can go back in history and find this. And the poetry of Shelley talks about Ozymandias and how he was a great emperor. And now all you find in the desert is his stone visage that's been worn away by the sand. And what happened to his big empire? to any modern songs that I had love, I lost love, and so forth. That's because although we're attracted to everything in this world because we are real ourselves, the material world's constantly changing because it's a reflection of reality. It seemed like a good idea, but it evaporates right before our eyes. And another example is the mirage. Mirage means there's real water somewhere, but not in the mirage. It's only the appearance of water. It's some sort of vapor that is there, but you can't get to it. So knowing that there is something behind it, if you find counterfeit money, it means there's real money somewhere else. It doesn't mean all money is counterfeit. So the material world is beautiful because it's a reflection of reality. So what's the solution then? What would someone say then, or ask? What question would somebody ask? No, I don't show the slide. I'm asking everybody. What should I ask if I discern, or if at least I accept theoretically that the material world is a reflection of reality, and reality is beautiful and it is somewhere and available, what could possibly be a next question? Charles smiling, so I'll let him go ahead.
Yeah, I would love to. For 500. No, I'm kidding.
Reality for 500, Charles.
Or actually, how do we actually experience reality? How do we uncover reality and experience it?
Well, the Upanishads say, look at yourself to start with, because you're part of it. And that's why I started with that introspection. And we may get more or less traction, but you will notice that when we experience our own consciousness and we feel this sense of, oh, I'm alive, I'm part of something alive. And it takes a little practice because we generally live in environments that are disturbing. That's called rajas. There's a lot going on externally that's pulling our attention here, there, and everywhere. I was just looking, because I was writing something, I was looking at some of Thoreau's writings. He deliberately went off into nature and just stayed outside of human contact for a long time, just so he could get into this trance with what's going on around him. If you sit for a while, like I did the other day, just out in the middle of nature where there's no disturbance, you start to sense that there's a universal intelligence even that's moving everything, and the artistry of the world and so forth. It's visceral. You don't have to have some theory, you just feel it directly. And so similarly, this type of introspection, meditation, where we look within, the Upanishads say, if you want to see a sample of reality and experience what it is, first look at yourself, because you're the most amazing thing in this whole world. We look outside and we try to find something that's satisfying, as like a boat. Seemed like a good idea at the time before you got it, and after you sold it, it's a relief to get rid of it, because the material world is frustrating. It's hard to maintain. It doesn't compute with us, because like, why are you falling apart? Why do I have to maintain everything? But when you look at yourself and your consciousness, you'll say, that's solid, that's real. And the Bhagavad Gita says, if you get a glimpse of that, you'll have this a sense of being unshakable. In all kinds of circumstances that are going on, you realize, okay, the world's moving, but I'm not, I'm right here. So that's a starting point to have that sense. And you can very well look within. And there's also the process of mantra meditation that helps us immensely to resonate with the higher energy that's us. And when we can have that experience, even a little tiny bit in, like, say, our morning, before we go out and face the world, then there's a way that we're able to navigate the world and see, oh, it's a reflection of reality, and therefore we're appreciating its connection, and we're not just overwhelmed by the circumstances, which are inevitably vexing. isn't it? Charles, please go ahead.
I just wanted to quickly add, you mentioned Rajas in relation to the external world, but I
Yeah.
also experience that it exists in the mind in the form of chatter. And so when we had that experience earlier, my mind actually quieted. And I think I got maybe a little glimpse, which I'm very grateful for, of the it that you talked about, the real thing.
Yeah, it's amazing how much chatter is going on inside. And it that's why Patanjali Muni wrote a whole treatise on the psychology of yoga. And he points out that if you could focus the mind even for a few seconds, you're in an elite group because the mind is constantly turning. And that's the source of our misery, actually. All suffering comes from the mind, and our relationship with it is very important. So mantra, man means mind, tra means to lift, or like Gayatri's here. So Gayatri, Gaya means song, tree is some from the same word. Triate means to deliver. Song, sound, meditation through mantra, it can lift us above that chatter. So we can have a moment of clarity that, wow, I exist. That's a unique experience because everything else around us doesn't exist. When we get caught up in that external world, we think, I'm going to cease to exist. And that's very scary. The whole idea, I mean, some psychologists have opined, at least one of them that I know of, wrote about fear of death, is that because I get externally focused, I think I am my body and my body is diminishing, it's going to die sometime. I'm very much afraid of it because I haven't had that observation that I'm different from the body. Thanks,
Thank you.
Charles.
Thank you. And different from that chatter too.
Taking us to another level. What, pardon me?
Oh, and different from that chatter as well. I'm also not that chatter.
I know. It's so funny. I've mentioned this before, you've heard this, but maybe some others haven't. In some research I'm doing for a book I'm writing about mantra meditation, I came across this studio in Minneapolis. It's a recording studio, and as an annex to it, they built a no sound studio where you can't hear even your footfall. There are negative decibels. It's just a curiosity, and people pay to go inside there. But most people can't stay more than 30 seconds, even if they pay $50 to go in. And the two reporters who wrote about it said it's the loudest place on earth because once there's no external sound, you start hearing the collected sounds, the aggregate of all the sounds that are already recorded within the subtle body. And it can be overwhelming.
Sorry,
So
what is the place called?
it's I'll have to look up the name for it. I could search for it now, but
Okay. Yeah, I could follow up. Thank you,
yeah,
though.
yeah, and it's coming out in my next book. So, but you
Wonderful.
don't have
Thank
to
you.
wait for that. That could take a while. All right. Thanks, Charles. So one of the points that Krishna makes in the Bhagavad Gita is if you notice that this is a reflection of reality, he says, first of all, get a grip and notice that your embracement of, is that a word? Embracement? I think I just made up a word. I think I'll just change that. The ways in which we embrace the world become frustrating because we come up empty. So he says, get knowledge and understand that our relationship with the material world is that we're real, it's changing. And then he says, once you have that, then take a journey. So he says, your journey should be to find where's the source of it. Go for source. That's one of the messages of the Bhagavad Gita. And when you find reality, and let's go to a couple more slides because I want to get to that slide that says reality is beautiful. And slide number 5 says, we see the world on the mirror of the mind. We are seeing the reflection of a reflection. So our mind also is a place that we're taking in the world, which is a reflection. And now all we're seeing is the reflection on the surface of our mind. We're not actually touching it even. So we're twice removed from, or 3 times removed because it's a reflection. And then there's a reflection of the reflection, and we're seeing that. We're not actually touching reality, which is what we really need or what we want to do. Okay, JM, there's stuff. Let's hear the stuff.
Yeah, so Gayatri says a philosophy that I have been exploring recently is to sit with and almost embrace our emotions, the good, bad, and ugly, all of them, instead of running away from the negative ones or distracting yourself to avoid feeling them altogether. Experiencing those emotions as they are, that observer that you spoke about is game changing and makes those feelings melt away effortlessly.
Yeah, definitely one of the ways in which we take for granted certain impulses coming in. For instance, like if you have some itch, you can just immediately respond to it. But if you notice that it's just an impulse coming through your mental system, you can objectify it and say, oh, yeah, interesting, different kind of signal coming through the body. It's one of the ways of noticing your body's going on mechanically. And there are all these, and it's also amazing that the body's set up to respond to the environment also quite automatically. But we don't have to immediately embrace it. We can also observe it.
Next is I just found the link. I think it's Orfield Laboratories, Minneapolis, is what you're referring to. I'm just posting that link.
Yeah. Elaine Castle, right? She put up a link.
Yeah, I just put up a little video about
Yes.
it that I found
Thanks
on
a lot.
YouTube.
Yeah, thanks for finding that. There
Yeah.
it is. Anybody who wants to see it. It's the Zero Sound Room. Really nice for a Saturday night. Where are we going? Zero Sound Room. Good luck in there. It's the loudest place on earth.
Yeah, thanks, Elaine. I didn't see you had also.
Yeah, thanks, Elaine.
Yeah. Next is Charles. According to Merriam-Webster, the word embracement is defined as the act of embracing, a hug, or an affectionate hold. Acceptance or adoption, the act of accepting or supporting something willingly or enthusiastically. It reflects both physical and metaphorical forms of acceptance, from literal hugging to figuratively embracing ideas or changes. Spot on.
Yeah.
And I think Radhakrupa also shared the same link. Yeah.
That's right. Orfield Laboratories, Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Yeah.
I wasn't making it up. Okay, a couple more slides and then we'll come to a conclusion and take some reflections. The next is slide number 6. Reality is the source of all energies. When we forget the source of these energies, we see illusion, which is called in Sanskrit language Maya. The two A's are long in Maya. Maya means that which is not. So we see things as disconnected, but they're all connected. And when we see them as separate, then we see ourselves as separate from reality. And that's when fear arises. And we have this sense of we're part of the changing world, but we're not. And that's when we become afraid. So the foundation, what's the foundation? We have a relationship with our source in number 7. That's because we're the same quality. Just like fire has sparks, sparks are the same quality as the fire. They're simultaneously one with, but different from the fire. And we are simultaneously one with and different from our source. But our real relationship is not with the material world, it's with our source. And this word companion, very interesting, because the ancient wisdom literatures say that we have this very deep relationship with our source. And that's the source of happiness, they say. Raso Vaisaha means our source has everything in it that we're looking for. Not so much in the reality. You get a boat and you want another one. You get a pair of shoes and you see somebody with a different color, you go, darn, I should have got that. But when you connect to source, even when you connect to yourself, there's still this sense of, yes, but what else? But then there's a relationship with source. So this word companion fascinated me. It comes from Old French, and it literally means one who breaks bread with another. And it's based on Latin, cum, which means together with, and panis, bread. So breaking bread is when you break bread with somebody, there's somebody there. There's a relationship. So we have a relationship with source. And the next slide goes into what yoga means. It doesn't necessarily mean just doing asanas. They're not a bad idea. In fact, I did mine this morning. But the fact is, yoga really means the act of being in a harmonious, loving relationship with our source. And our relationship with our companion, which is sometimes thought of as impersonal, but the ancient Vedas say, no, actually it's personal. Source is personal. That's why we can have gratitude. You can't have gratitude for something or for anything unless there was intention behind it. Intention means personality. The rest of the slides are very getting more technical, but I just wanted to see what reflections anybody has, since we talked about reflections. Whatever other, what thoughts were stimulated by the conversation, by the slides? What questions do you think would expand the conversation? Yes, Victoria. You're on mute. Still
Sorry.
on. There you go.
Yeah. When we have deal with somebody or something, does it mean that we still have deal with our source? Because the source is he produce all energies, and when we have some problem in our life, when we contact with somebody, does it mean that the source give us some signs or maybe some ideas to change something, or it's just Maya? And how to understand this this border between all this source talks to us through different signs, or it's just our karma or Maya or something else?
Yeah, what an important question. One of the ways that the Srimad Bhagavatam, one of the ancient wisdom literature, describes our relationship with the world is that we can have multiple relationships, but there's two main categories. One is we try to embrace the world and make it here and say, I'm going to get comfortable. And then anything that goes against my sense of comfort or being well established in this world becomes my enemy. It becomes something that is against my will and so forth. Then there's, of course, there's three. I'm going to say three. Then the other one is to renounce the world altogether. And I alluded to that earlier, that someone might say the material world's changing, frustrating, therefore I'll retreat from it altogether. I'll become so detached from it. And there are conceptions that even our individual identity, I'll make it zero. And I'll go from the negativity of the material world, just like on a number line, there's negative numbers. It's like living in debt. And I'll move up that to get to zero. But then there's the positive relationship with the world, the Vedas say, which is, it's a classroom. And it's meant to refine us. So there's ways in which any of the ways that we find the world inconvenient, if we tune ourselves to our purpose, our ultimate purpose, which is to reach our highest potential, then whatever happens, it becomes a way that we have an opportunity to practice rising to a higher level of consciousness. And I know for myself, unless I'm challenged, in fact, whatever kind of disciplines I'm in, I always get the best mentor I can find to challenge me and say, no, push yourself, one more, do this, hand it in on time, whatever it may be, because that's the way I grow. So when you take the world as a place for growth, then those reversals that you experience or the frustrations you feel in relationships become a time when one can learn. And to just say on a practical level, it's actually, it is very practical that relationships are troubling in all ways because they're always changing and they become difficult. And I have a philosophy. personal philosophy, and it's based on Bhagavad Gita, which is don't tap out. Always try to continue exploring what are the workarounds that we can do. If it ends up agree to disagree, don't go away with a sense of being disappointed or of resentful. Work through things as best you can in the relationships in the material world or with the reversals until you find the workaround. And it's for me an edifying practice to take that challenge, because the mind immediately says, it's not comfortable, this is uncomfortable, therefore I want to reject it, or make an ultimatum, say, you either do it my way or I quit. There's no further we can go. But it's amazing with some people, with they could be really challenging, and then you won't tap out. You just stay even and try to find the solution to it. You'll notice a point at which they'll well, at least I can't make a categorical statement. Some people may not, but I've noticed with some people who tend to be a little tenacious, and that's a euphemism. They start to like, what's going on here? I've never experienced this before, because maybe they're combative and they're used to people saying, okay, that's it, we're not talking anymore. But if you hang in there, then there's a way that you learn something. There's another level that you can come to in those relationships. And that's the relationship we have with the world also. If we take up the tenets, for instance, of Bhagavad Gita, of remaining equal in up, down, hot, cold, all the dualities of the world, we start to get wisdom, because we notice that the world's very accommodating and we get a fruit out of that rather than trying to walk away and reestablish ourselves somewhere else. Not to say that if something's completely non-productive, that you should just stick with it forever. But our attitude can be adjusted in order to accommodate the changes of the material world. A lot more to say about that, but I hope some of that landed in the right place. We have a chance for one more comment or a question, which I'll answer in 30 seconds or less, or your money back from today's Zoom experience. Have 5 seconds to pose a question. 5, 4, 3.
Where should we place our attention next?
Well, what I recommend is to have a program that gets you started in the morning. I know you know this, Charles, because we've talked about it a lot and you've been studying this for a long time. But the way we start our day, because I did talk about having a foundation, is one of the practices from the ancient Vedas to say have a good start in the morning. So when I wake up, first of all, I plan my morning the night before. I make sure everything's in order so that I have the things that I'm going to need, so I don't get called to other things. And I start off when I open my eyes with some affirmation and mantra before I even put my foot on the floor. I do make my bed as neatly as possible, so I have that sense that, I'm not a slob. I'm moving on. I'm doing everything in an orderly way. And then I make sure I start with mantra meditation, minus a few other things, ablutions, and just take care of the physical body, which is sort of needs a little bit of attention in the morning, minus the details. And then getting into the realm of that we started with this program with. That's a good way to start every day, where to put one's attention. Nigama, go inwardly. And I do that. I read Bhagavad Gita. It never gets old for me. I've been reading it for 52 years. And I also do my mantra meditation early, get a foundation. And then, of course, take care of your physical body. It's really a fine-tuned machine. And if you got to eat right, you have to exercise, you have to drink enough water, do whatever you have to do to make sure that you're healthy. Well, that was hopefully under the time. We're right at 1 o'clock. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. It's been a wonderful experience. I hate that word wonderful. It's overused. It was, I'll use heartfelt. I use that a lot too, but it means more to me. It was heartfelt. Thank you for being here, everybody. And we can make our exit from this Zoom room in a way that the yogis do high in the Himalayas. They come out of their caves to get a little light and also to get some fruits and roots. And when they see colleagues who
So the
are also
reference for 0 dB is
engaged in a similar practice, they raise their hands high in the air to encourage one another, and they say Hari Bol, which means keep the transcendental vibration going. Hari Bol.
Haribol.
Haribol.
Hari Bol.
Haribo.